Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode on this channel. I am Rebecca Martinez and today we are going to make vegan apple pie. To make the crust, we're going to get a food processor out, but you can also do this by hand and start by adding 4 cups of all-purpose flour to your food processor. This is a lot, yes, because we're making a double crusted pie, a bottom crust and a top crust, and it requires a lot of flour in order to do so. We're going to get almond flour for an extra crispy, flaky crust. Add 1 cup of this almond flour to the food processor in addition to 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, which is totally optional, but because it is a dessert, that extra sweet crust is welcomed. Give it a nice mix in the food processor until the ingredients are homogeneous and add 3 sticks of vegan butter or 1.5 cups of vegan butter, 1 tablespoon at a time to the food processor, mixing little by little. Now this is the bit that I like to do by hand, but today I was feeling extra lazy simply because sometimes the food processor will leave like a random tablespoon of vegan butter in the mix of your dough that is not completely combined. So just be careful of this and make sure to give yourself a break and wipe everything down. Add 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to prevent any sort of gluten formation, and add 3 to 4 tablespoons of ice water while the mixture is combining in the food processor. The food processor will make it very obvious when your dough has come together. You will notice that the dough becomes saturated with water and it becomes homogeneous and starts to stick to each other. This can take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Once your dough is ready, you will know because it looks like this, and then you can take it out of the food processor and bring it together by hand and a little bit of flour. So take it all out and then use your hands to gently bring it together, making sure not to knead it because we don't want any gluten formation, and just dust it with a little bit of flour to prevent any sort of sticking. At this point, I like to divide my dough in 2. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can use a knife or a bench scrape and then add it to some parchment paper to make it really easy when you need to use these to roll out your pie. I like to put them into a rough rectangular shape as you've seen hopefully in previous videos on this channel, and then let it chill in the refrigerator while we work on the apple filling. For this recipe, we're going to be using Granny Smith apples. So yes, these green tart apples are my favorite, but you can use red apples if you prefer. We're going to need 6 cups worth, so make sure to take all of that peel off, but you can keep it on if you'd like, but I don't like it in my pie, so choose whatever you want to do. Then you want to get rid of the cores and dice them into approximately 1/2 inch to 1 inch pieces of apples. This is of course depending on your preference. I like them just a little bit bigger because we want a nice appley pie. You have 6 cups of chopped grannies, and we're going to add them to a large skillet on a medium hob. So make sure everything can fit and you have hopefully a cover for this skillet. And add 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon or more depending on if you love cinnamon like I do. Add 1/2 teaspoon of ground cardamom and a 1/4 teaspoon or optional of ground cloves. These are the spices I like to use. You can mix and match as you prefer. Cover it and let it cook for about 10 minutes, making sure nothing sticks to the bottom, and add a juice of 1 lemon. Although these are Granny Smith apples and pretty tart as it is, the juice of a lemon really brings out the flavor of the apples and of the sugar, believe it or not. Add 1 tablespoon of cornstarch mixed with 3 tablespoons of water to thicken it all up. Make sure to mix that cornstarch before adding it, otherwise it'll get really chunky and gross. And let it chill in the fridge entirely before actually constructing your pie. To form your pie, add some flour to a table area that you will work on your workspace, I guess, and then with a rolling pin, roll out your bottom layer of the crust to about 1/8 inch thick. Make sure to do this on some parchment paper because it makes it way easier to lift it up. I forgot to do this and had to re-roll it. But you're going to be adding this crust to just a general pie pan that you can buy at any local grocery store. gently fold it into the corners of your pie pan and allow it to cool in the fridge while we roll out the top part of our crust. As you roll out the top part of the crust, make sure that you're also using a parchment paper because it makes it so much easier to just like plop it on there. Once everything is ready and your filling is totally cooled, add it to your pie pan and then make sure it's totally even and fitting into those corners of those pies, but make sure not to overfill it either. Be mindful, because if it's too much, it'll just crack, which honestly sort of happened to me a little bit. So add the topping, the top crust to your pie. Trim the edges of your pie, leaving about 1/2 inch to 1 inch worth of pie crust on the edge. And using the same technique explained in the cherry pie video, by using your index finger and your thumb finger, you're going to gently crimp the outside edge of your pie until it has a nice sort of weave, but of course not a basket weave, but a nice crimp. That is a little bit nicer than using just a fork. If you want to revisit this, I will leave the cherry pie video in the description for you all to look at. It should also have a chapter that you can easily go to. Score it with a knife. I like to score it like a star, just using 4 simple dashes. You can use holes, you can get creative with it, do whatever whatever tickles your fancy. You need these to release some steam while it all bakes. Because it is cooked, you don't need too much. It won't be releasing too much steam, but it still really helps with the bake of the pie. Using a pastry brush or whatever kind of brush you have around the house, add a little bit of soy milk or almond milk to the top, which will be sort of adhesive or glue for some sugar, cinnamon sugar at the top. This is just for decoration. You can choose not to do this if you don't want to, but it adds a nice look to your apple pie once it is nicely baked. Look at that, it's gorgeous. Now let it chill in the fridge for 1 hour minimum. This is not optional. You need to do this to get a really flaky crust. Bake for 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 minutes, then 350 for 1 to 1.5 hours. This can bake low and slow for as long as you want, and let it cool for 4 hours or overnight because you need that pie to set. This pie is super crumbly and very delicious. It honestly makes a ton of pie, so be sure to share with your friends, serve it up with some vegan ice cream, and enjoy. If you guys liked this content, be sure to subscribe for daily shorts and weekly videos every Friday.